Yeah, good day, America. Good day. How's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's doing well and hope everybody's ready because tonight starts the DNC fanfare and the Democrat convention for the next 4 days, 5 days, whatever. So now we get to hear their plan of attack, for lack of a better word. I don't know. Anyway, I'm James Parker, one half of the podcast host for Truth to Freedom, Real Talk for Real People, and I'm joined by my other co-host, Mr. Quentin Williams. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Oh man, everything is lovely. Waiting to see what this week holds. Waiting to see what everybody has to say. Let's see if the Democrats pull out their rabbit out of the hat and have all these star lineups or whatever the case might be. It'll be interesting. So I guess to get this kicked off, let me share my screen and let's take a look at what's getting ready to happen here in just a minute.
Up to this week's Democratic convention, the incumbent president dropping out under pressure from his own party and the vice president taking his place. NewsHour anchors Jeff Bennett and Amna Nawaz are in Chicago for the next chapter. Jeff, what's this week going to look like?
Well, John, Democratic officials say the convention will open tomorrow night with the theme For the People. We'll hear from Secretary Hillary Clinton, the First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, and President Joe Biden, whose primetime keynote address will make the case for electing Kamala Harris. Tuesday will be organized along the theme of what Democrats call their bold vision for America's future, with evening keynotes from Michelle and Barack Obama. Wednesday night, we can expect the campaign to draw a contrast with the Trump ticket, and that's when we'll hear from former President Bill Clinton and Kamala Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. And on the last night, as is customary, we'll hear from the nominee herself, Kamala Harris, as she formally accepts the convention's nomination for president, outlines her agenda, and reintroduces herself to the American public. So over the next 4 days, Democrats will look to capitalize on their base's newfound enthusiasm for this campaign, which has really returned the presidential race to a neck-and-neck contest.
That's right, Jeff. And, I asked multiple Democratic officials and lawmakers, all of whom are attending the convention this week, to describe that sense of enthusiasm. They use words like joy and excitement, and this word I heard a lot, momentum, going into this convention. And we have seen that momentum show up among voters in a race that has shifted dramatically since Vice President Harris moved to the top of the ticket. In fact, the latest battleground state polling shows Harris and former President Trump mostly tied. The latest national polling shows Harris with a narrow lead over Trump on both fronts, of course. That is an improvement for Democrats from just a month ago when President Biden was still running for re-election. Our White House correspondent, Laura Barone Lopez, has been covering the Harris-Walz campaign. She's here with us in Chicago. So, Laura, as we've been saying, this is a very different convention to the one Democrats were planning just a few weeks ago. What's the vibe been like here in Chicago?
It's totally different, and you can feel it here on the ground in Chicago. Democrats are motivated in a way that we didn't hear them be motivated prior to Kamala Harris jumping in and when it was a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And to seize on that momentum, Kamala Harris, the vice president, is in Pennsylvania campaigning alongside her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz. They have a bus tour that's going through western Pennsylvania as well as Pittsburgh. And the campaign is holding 2,800 battleground state events where they are signing up more than 10,000 volunteers for shifts this week to knock on doors, including some high-profile surrogates are out there. Pete Buttigieg, along with his husband, in the state of Wisconsin, going through that key battleground state as they try to really just capitalize, as you said, Jeff, on the momentum that they're feeling with their base.
And Laura, I know you've been speaking with Democratic voters about this race. What have they been telling you?
I've been speaking to a number of Democratic voters, not just here in Chicago, but also in Wisconsin, and they tell a similar story. Essentially, a lot of them used words like nervous, worried. They used words like grim when I asked them how they felt about this rematch when it was a rematch between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And then how they feel now that Kamala Harris is about to, go through this convention and she's the Democratic nominee, how they feel about that. The race has totally changed. And they say that now they're more hopeful, that they feel like all of the dynamics have shifted, that they sense it in their communities, and they are clearly much more excited to just go out and vote. And they feel as though that Democrats potentially have a chance to win this election when they didn't necessarily feel that just a few weeks ago.
Laura, I know you've also been speaking with black voters in particular, of course, who are a key part of that Democratic coalition voting bloc. What are you hearing from them?
So, as you both know, Donald Trump has been trying to siphon away specifically black voters because, of course, the vast majority of black voters vote for Democrats, more than 80% almost every election cycle. But he is thinking, Donald Trump is thinking that at the margins, maybe he can siphon away a few black voters. I've been talking to some who voted for Trump in the past, saying that they aren't as necessarily interested in voting for him this time, but they're not exactly sold on Kamala Harris yet. And they want to hear more from her, speaking directly to them, specifically on the economy. They want to hear a lot more from her on those issues, on housing, which we've seen that she started to roll out more of her plans to differentiate herself from President Joe Biden. But the black women that I've spoken to are incredibly excited, and they feel as though that the country is ready to elect its first black woman and South Asian president. So they're hoping that that what they're feeling is something that a lot of other women are feeling across the country, and a lot of them name issues like reproductive rights and healthcare and abortion for why they're excited about Harris.
We may expect to hear a lot more, hopefully more details, too, on this stage behind us for the rest of the week. Laura Barone-Lopez, be here with us in Chicago all week. Thanks so much, Laura.
Thank you.
John, we will send it back to you.
Thanks, Amna, Jeff, and Laura, and the entire team in Chicago. And they will all be there for live special coverage every night of the Democratic National Convention, beginning Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on PBS.
So here we go. Democrat convention and what they're going to do. I'll take it over to you there, Quentin. What do you think how you think they're going to do, and what you think they are they going to bring anything to the table worth listening to? What's your opinion?
I'm interested in seeing it, like you said, just to see kind of what they pull out and how they go about it. I've seen some of her, well, I've heard some of her other TV commercials, radio commercials, and she says a whole lot of nothing. She doesn't really, she'll say, we're Medicare for all, or she just says stuff like that. It's just empty rhetoric to me. They've already started attacking Trump on some things. They used when he talked about trickle-down economics.
Mm-hmm.
They used that against him. So they're using that against him. There was something else. They started attacking him on Project 2025, and that's why he had to come out and denounce it, to try to separate himself from it, because a lot of Americans weren't really happy about it. They thought it was kind of weird, kind of crazy ideas. They thought it was too extreme, really. So
yeah,
they attacked him on that too. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm just saying. So, of course, the 2025 plan project is a focal point to gain hate toward the Republican Party. But what's crazy is that it's a lot of the agendas for. First of all, a lot of the agendas that are in there, there's only maybe a handful of them that he can even do anything with a what a president does, whenever they can
executive orders.
Thank you. Executive order. Yeah. So it's only a few of them in there that he can do anything like with an executive order, where he don't have to take it to Congress or whatever case might be. The other thing is, if he don't have full control of the House or the Senate, ain't but so much he's going to be able to get through. I mean, you're talking, I mean, because a lot of stuff is talking about doing away with the FBI and Homeland Security and all this other stuff. I mean, I don't know. Trump has his ways, but I mean, you talking about dismantling the government. You're talking about, doing away with this department. You're talking about bringing in people that were, uh, it was a job. Now you want to make it an appointed position where you can put who you want where. I mean, that's a whole lot. I mean, people giving Trump a whole lot of credit for for him to even push uh this, this platform through. Um, I mean, he does some crazy stuff, but one of the things they said um about uh Kamala when they were saying about how she is coming up with her proposals as far as for high prices, grocery prices, housing, and healthcare costs and things of that nature. So I'm very interested to see what her platform is on that because I mean, with grocery prices, I don't know how you fix that. I just don't know how you fix it. I mean, it's an inflated price by the manufacturer, who then passes on to the grocery stores. The grocery store passes it on to the consumer. I mean, so if you don't regulate it, I don't know how you're going to fix it. Um, if we're getting too much stuff from overseas, um, you're going to have an incentive for people here to start farming again. I mean, it's a lot of things that we just don't do anymore. That it comes from overseas, and
Yeah.
so there go your inflated prices. But I don't know. What's your opinion on that?
No, I agree. I'm interested to hear what she's got to say too about uh, our social ills. Um, they already talking about giving people a $25,000 housing tax credit. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't heard that one yet.
Well, I was talking to somebody today, Trump supporter, Republican, and he told me that Trump had said it. No, that wasn't it. Um, they were also talking about not taxing tips for waiters
Right.
and waitresses.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, not being to tax tips and wait and up the wage. I think because like some restaurants, they make like very bare minimum an hour, and the majority of their money is made off of tips. So they're talking about raising the hourly rate and then not taxing their tips.
$2. They make $2. Some of them make $2 an hour.
So, but then again, this is what I said before. A lot of this stuff, man, they don't fix it
No,
because it becomes a political tool when it comes to elections. Just like the border. The borders, there's been an issue forever and ever. They could have been fixed the border. Matter of fact, they could have built, with the money they invested in the border, they could have built a refugee uh, indoctrination building where these people come over, they funnel them through the building, they process them, screen them, give them a ID card. They're in the record. They could have made them legal coming in. They could have been did that. They could have built something right there on the border to process them. That's it. Immigration processing center. And you could have processed them through. You could have round up any criminals because you have to run a background check. Um, it could have been done years ago. I mean, they're bringing them in and then you're shipping them to all these different cities and then the cities got to deal with them and but talking about immigrants, see, this is what America has to, and let me see what you think about this. This is what America has to have to pay attention to. So you got the Democrats and the Republicans, and then you have these different blocks of groups of people like the NRA, AARP, and then you got the LGBTQ community. The only reason that the LGBTQ LGBTQ community is even relevant to anything is that they're organized. They're organized as a group, which means votes. And that's why they pay attention to them. And that's why they put policies for them in place for them to get them to vote for the certain parties that they want to vote for. Because I guarantee you, if they weren't organized, they wouldn't be relevant. But that's just like we were talking about before. For us, need to stop voting parties, and we need to get our vote organized.
Yeah.
To who we want. Cornel West, I think, has a chance to do some damage if he can get his plan. He needs to do the same thing Obama did. He needs to hit the social media, because that's about the cheapest way to get your message out and to get it spread it out quick as possible, and also to raise funds. That's what he did, and it worked wonders for him. But people got to realize, stop voting for the party, because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. If you are a Christian and you believe in the Bible and you're voting for the Democratic Party, then you're voting for the wrong party, because I'm gonna tell you, one of the agendas for them that they've mentioned is for same-sex marriage. They're pushing that. They're pushing that to make it legal everywhere, to give them the same rights and benefits as a married couple. And they're probably going to push it to the point where they're going to make it to where pastors and preachers are going to have to marry them. Like right now, they don't have to do it. They're going to make it a federal law that they're going to have to, if they want to get married at that church, you're going to have, you can't deny them. And so you need to be careful, but that's where the organized vote comes in. So I don't know. What you think about that, Quentin?
No, I agree. And that's another thing that the Republicans capitalize on, because they're, they'll pick opposite policies or opposite positions to get people to come to their side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just I think we need to look at the larger picture also, and not just go for one or two specific political positions.
Right.
Because voting either one of them, Democrat or Republican, the question still is, what about food? What about housing? Everything is so high.
Exactly.
Personally, I mean, I recently started paying attention to politics. I never paid attention to them. I mean, I heard the things, I watched a little bit, but I never believed in it. But I do understand now that organizing your vote is the way that you make change.
Well, I'm in the same boat. For a lot of years, I could care less, because I really, back in the day, I didn't think your vote mattered, really, even though that's what they would preach. Your vote matters. You need to vote. Yeah. Why? They already know who's going to win. They already got it. I just didn't really care. Then I got persuaded on the herd mentality, especially for Black folks, demonizing the white people and the Republicans. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to take this away, they're trying to keep you down. And so everything was about the Black experience. And so, of course, me being Black and young, I fell for it. Urban radio pushed it. Tom Joyner,
Yeah.
Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, D.L. Hughley, what's his name out of Greensboro? The Michael Basin, I think.
Yeah, I remember Michael Basin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was definitely one that push the black agenda. But all of them, Reverend Sharpton, all of them took situations and cultivated it to make it seem like this is just against black folks and so forth and so on. And of course, you being black, you jumped on board, herd mentality. And like you said, it wasn't until here several years back, I actually finally started paying attention to what was going on. And just come to the realization, man, basically people just lie to you. Just straight up tell you a bunch of fluff to get you to vote. Hope you don't do no research and you just vote the party, regardless of whatever. Not realizing that what you voting for ain't really what you want. You're just voting because this is what all the black folks are doing. Just like when that guy came, was it Biden came out there talking about it, you ain't black if you don't vote. What kind of mess is that if you ain't, why? Because I'm black, I got to vote for you. How about me vote for somebody that's going to really try to do something? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember when Biden said that. And he was actually having a conversation with, I can't remember if it was Charlemagne the God or Ice Cube, but they asked him, like, what are you going to do for black people if you want our vote? And that was pretty much his response. Instead of saying, it's just like he's just saying, what are you going to do? Vote for Trump? You can't vote for him.
Yeah.
He don't like he doesn't, he's opposed to you. He's against you. But it's fear mongering is all it is. And Democrats and Republicans do it.
Yeah.
The Republicans do it to a lot of white working class people and they fall for it. They call everything communism. Everything is communism and socialism. Mm-hmm. Like that's the end of America. When in reality, the problems that we see now is because of unregulated capitalism. It has nothing to do with communism or socialism. There's no regulations.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That helps me transition to the next thing. So this next video we're going to watch is, of course, Fox News. We all know who Fox support. Yeah. But it is an interview with the financial guru, Dave Ramsey. He's a financial guru. You ever heard the story how he started out in real estate and he went broke and then he built himself back up. And he has a plan of attack on how you do your finances and stay out of debt and so forth and so on. Great plan. I listened to him. He has a great concept on how to stay out of debt and accumulate wealth, which is what we should be teaching our young folks. But they interviewed him, and what made me make sure I saved it is they talked about socialism, communism, and all that, and he tried to say that government needs to stay out, and that social medicine, it will never work. Look what it's doing in Canada. People have to wait months, sometimes years, before they can get a procedure done. They can't keep enough money and funding to fund for these things and pay the doctors and so forth and so on. See, again, they take these several cases that might have went awry and try to make it seem like it's the whole system that's a failure. But like I was saying, if it's something that would work, you take the parts that work, fine tune the rest. But I'll let you listen to it, because what he said, maybe I'll let you listen to it, because what he said didn't make it didn't make no sense to me, because he said let the system correct itself. I don't know what he means by that, because the system ain't corrected itself yet. But let's just take a listen.
Well, the Harris campaign sells good vibes and taco recipes because Lord knows they can't sell this dog of an economy. And although celebs may be on Zoom singing her praises, Kamala Harris and young voters, well, can they use good vibes to pay their rent or buy their food or get ahead?
I'm 20 years old. Why is a one-bedroom apartment $600, $1,600? Rent prices is outrageous. And then these jobs, they're bare minimum jobs. I really waited my whole life to grow up and do this.
My parents are Gen X's, and they've never owned a house at all. And there are many times where we were homeless.
I kept a full-time job the whole time I was homeless. It's just that everything is so expensive nowadays that what do you prioritize? Like, do you prioritize eating over having a home?
We have to make 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and that's not fun money. That's money so that we're not homeless.
This is heartbreaking to hear. The question is, do these young people really think a President Harris will revive their prospects with policies like price controls? Joining me now, Dave Ramsey, personal finance expert, host of the fabulous The Ramsey Show. Dave, great to see you tonight. Okay, price controls. Talk to young people for a moment. Is that going to fix this problem, dig them out of that financial hole?
No, because it's artificial. It's not sustainable because it's artificial. If you just put a lid on something, and if you want to explore what really happens, just go back to the 1970s. We tried it. There was a whole movement for price controls across everything because inflation was out of control and rampant, just like it is now. And so it's been tried. It does not work. What works is to flood the market with supply. Lots of oil means lower oil prices. Lots of labor means lower labor prices. Lots of whatever means lower prices. It's a simple supply-demand curve. It's called economics, and it's called the free market economics. When you insert government in it and try to artificially cramp it down, it simply does not work because you can only hold that hose for so long until the pressure builds up and then it blows on you.
Well, President Trump was talking today about how we have flooded the market with low-wage workers, but unfortunately they're illegal aliens or asylum seekers, migrants, and so that has artificially kind of jacked up some of these employment numbers. But the Washington Post makes an important point regarding the retail sales numbers that came out today, Dave, which showed a 1% increase, which a lot of people think that's good, it's increasing. But the top 20% of households account for roughly 45% of overall spending, and low and middle income households are really feeling the brunt of high inflation. The lion's share of U.S. consumer spending coming from the wealthiest consumers. Dave, given what you hear on a daily basis, does that surprise you at all?
Well, let's also understand the statistic there. It went up 1%. It wasn't 1% in number of units sold. It was in dollar volume. What's that mean? It means the price went up. It doesn't mean the economy's booming. It just means the cost of the good went up by 1%. Actually, it went up a lot more than 1% because the number of units is down. And so that's a misnomer. That's misreported. It acts like the economy is booming in retail or something. And yes, we are seeing this disparity between the haves and the have-nots getting wider and wider and wider, which traditionally you see as you see more and more government intervention in the economy. When you let the free market run and you leave it alone, this is a battle of ideas. When you let the free market run and leave it alone, it will find equilibrium. And it works to the advantage of most everyone when you do that. When you insert government in it and you say, I'm going to do price controls, I'm going to protect you from high grocery prices, it's simply not sustainable, and it causes more problems than not. All we got to do is go back and look at the mess of the supply chain in COVID and see that exact same thing unfolding there. And so if you want to help the little man, let the market run.
Yeah. Well, some of the dumb ideas they have out there is just take cold showers, Dave. Skip a meal and take cold showers. That's the answer, and we'll go back to price controls.
There you go. Well, cold showers aren't bad for you necessarily. I would hate for anyone to have to take one. But if you take a cold shower to save money and then stop by Starbucks and pick up a $12 coffee, you kind of defeated yourself.
Dave, it is so great to see you. It's been way too long. Come back soon, and thank you so much.
Hey, Sean. All righty. So this is what he thinks it's supposed to do. Have at it, Quentin. Get him, Quentin. Get him. It's all yours, sir. You got to forget him. Get him, Quentin. Get him.
Well, these are typical right-wing arguments, and she mentioned that Trump said that immigrants are flooding the labor market with low wage work, as if immigrants are the issue. But they didn't say anything about corporations actually wanting low wage workers. That's why they left America to go to China and Mexico, because they could pay them nothing. So, I mean, the fix is regulations on that. And he said he made a comment about putting a cap on it doesn't work. And well, we have wealth inequality now, and the level that we are hasn't been seen since the 1920s, the Great Depression. And the way we got out of that was FDR came up with the New Deal. Because I mean, if you don't help people, I don't understand how is the market going to self-correct? Corporations ain't in to make money. And I like to use this example. We have child labor laws because they used to have children working in mines. So that's what you get when you take regulations away. And this whole free market, the market isn't free. It has never been free. And when it is free is when we see wealth inequality like we see it. Government always sets regulations for competition. Because if they don't, then the people with the most money and the resources are going to take it until they own everything.
Yep. That's why they broke up Bell South. They broke up Bell South because they said they were too big, and that they manipulated the market. So they broke up Bell South. That's where we got AT&T and everybody else. They also broke up what was the cable company? Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Was it Turner Broadcasting? They broke them up.
There was Time Warner at one point.
Yeah. Okay, Time Warner. I knew it was one of them. Turner Broadcasting, Time Warner. They broke them up because they said they were too big. And they was monopolizing the market because everybody was complaining about how cable was just so high.
Yeah.
So they broke them up. The reason, and I could be wrong, but I believe the reason is because he's saying we did it before. That's right. We did put a regulation on stuff, but then they took the regulation off.
Yeah.
That's what screwed it up. If they had left the regulations in place, it would have controlled everything and everything would have stayed stable. But once you took the regulations off, now everybody runs amok. Again, I guess he had to do a whole show because I want to hear his explanation on how do you correct wages and housing? Because if a person is out here trying to work, he has average skills. He didn't go to college. He has average skills, so he's going to get basically an average job. But he's willing to work and pay his way. But he'll never be able to do it without working anywhere from 3 to 4 jobs at now $15 an hour, because it never will be enough to make enough to pay $1,300 a month rent and then still pay your utilities. If you got gas, you got to pay gas bill, and whatever else the facility that you're staying at has as amenities and all this other stuff. If he has a car, got to put gas in it. If he has a car note. And so I want him to explain, or anybody, I want to explain how do you justify, because now the jobs that were paying minimum wage are now actual jobs of survival for people. You know what I'm saying? The students ain't getting these jobs no more. We got people that they're trying to raise a family working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
So people will say, well, why would you try to raise a family at McDonald's? Because that's all he can get for whatever reason. But the man is willing to work. They won't give him 40 hours. None of them jobs give you 40 hours. And they don't give you enough to sustain. I think, and just with the social medicine or whatever, I think if done right, will be successful because, God, what was that company? My mother was, I think it was Kaiser Permanente. I think it was Kaiser. Kaiser's whole program was basically like, if you want to say social medicine, everything was done within Kaiser. They had a building out there off of Blue Ridge Road because I took my mother there. My mother loved it because everything was done right there at Kaiser. If you needed X-rays, if you needed um, physical therapy, you needed anything, it was all done within Kaiser, and you just paid um, whatever the premium was, and everything was covered. And this is what you did. Kaiser got ran out of North Carolina because of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Because now talk about a monopoly. Blue Cross Blue Shield is a monopoly. They need to be broken up. But they ran Kaiser out of here because Kaiser at one time was big. I think they're still in California, but they were big in California just for that simple. They brought a more simplified way to give health care instead of going to this doctor and then you need a specialist. All right, so now we got to call over here and find you a specialist, and then you got to get an appointment to go see the specialist. Then you got to go over here to see the specialist. Then they'll see you, work you up. Now you got to go back to your other doctor, and it's a pain in the butt. Why can't I just go to one location and have all my services and needs met right there? Right there.
Yep.
Why is that a bad thing? And why is it that a person that done worked all their life and here they are in their retirement ages, we'll just say they retired at 65, but because of the high price of medicine and healthcare, because we let the free market do its thing, and now it's too high for these people to retire because, like the girl said, how do I prioritize? If I am a senior that unfortunately maybe I didn't take good care of my health or whatever, but now I have all these health issues and I have to take all this medication where this medication, one pill is $200. You know what I'm saying? One pill. And so your medicine is outrageous. The care is outrageous. Now what do I have to do? I got to go back to work. Go into Walmart. Walmart is filled with elderly folks trying to work. And the only reason I believe they're working is because they can't afford the health care. Or the way the economy is going, depending on how they invested their money didn't last or started to dwindle away of them trying to live off retirement. And they had to go back to work because the money, inflation was outpacing what money they had as far as growth. Again, going back to teaching our youth financial wealth. So when they get to this point, they won't outlive their money, or the money won't get eaten up by inflation. So that's my take on it. It's all yours, Quentin. Get him, Quentin.
No, I agree. You have these conversations with right-wing guys because that's what they are, right-leaning. And the only thing I can come back to is if government isn't supposed to help, they're not supposed to take care of you. And the free market, there's supposed to be no regulations. You don't want government intervention. And if these people can't, you don't need to work at McDonald's as a career. You need to find something else. Okay, we're going to see all these things and people are struggling. Are you saying we should just let them die? You know what I'm saying? Because that's kind of what it sounds like to me. We just do nothing for them. We can't, we can't do anything. The solution is to do nothing. But why would you not do something? I don't understand that. You can do something. Go ahead.
You're right. You can do something, but you answered the question. They'll just let them die.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it, look at your homeless population. Look at the homeless population. I think we was talking last Sunday. Our church served at one of the local shelters. They served food, and it was packed to capacity. It was packed, and you can look out at all these different people, and you can see they all had a story. Some were old; they're not going to be able to go back to work. Some of us are walking around with a walker, and then you have mothers with their kids. And I'm pretty sure all of them have a story on why they ended up here. So they ended up here, and this is what happens. But like you said, would you not want to come up with a program to help? I ain't saying give them anything, but should we not have something in place that can give them a helping hand up and get them back on their feet?
Yeah.
So they can be a productive member of society. I ain't saying give them jack. That's what's wrong now. Y'all just give money away. That's why nobody want to do anything, because y'all just give. That's why the COVID incentive was a bust. They had all that money for COVID, but there was no regulations. They just gave it to anybody. Then they found out at the end how many people was ripping them off, people that didn't need it, people that were government officials was applying for all this money. It never did make it to the people they were supposed to go to. Just like the rent it was housing.
The rent memorandum.
Yeah. So they was giving people money to pay their rent. Why would you give the money to them? If you're applying, you have to put down your complex, your rent, where do your rent go to? Yeah. That's what you should have put down on the application. Contact the rental company. They verify this person still live there. What is their rent? Fine. Then send the check to the rental company so their rent be paid on a monthly basis until we get out. Why would you send the rent check to them? They ain't gonna pay their rent. You don't put a moratorium on evictions, so I ain't gotta pay my rent. You send me $1,000 to pay my rent. Woo-hoo! Mercedes Benz, huh? Then when everything is over, now you got these people owing thousands and thousands of dollars. Then what did they do? They evicted everybody they could. They started putting all them people out in the streets because they didn't do it the right way. And then they want to say it's a bust. We just giving money to people. You should have never gave it to them in the first place. Anytime you got something that's assisting somebody, you don't never give it to them. You give it to the place that it's going, just like child care. If you're helping with child care, the money needs to go to the child care, not to the mother. For what? So she can go down and put weave in her hair and get her nails done? No. If she needs help with child care, find out what the child care is, find out who the company is, send the child care money to the child care company.
Now they do child care just like that. They don't give them money, they give them a voucher. And then they take that voucher to whoever daycare will accept it. So, I mean, you either use it or you lose it. There ain't nothing to spend in between that. You can't spend no money. You just get a voucher. That's it.
Well, something. Every program can be regulated and what do you call it? Regulated and overseen.
Yeah.
And accountability. And so when you put those things in place, it holds that person accountable. Just like somebody say they lost their job, having trouble finding a job. They come in for assistance. Okay, they're gonna apply for assistance. They need to sit down with the counselor. They sit down, get his history, find out what they need. He may need more job training. Let's get him more job training. Or maybe he just needs help finding employment. Let's help him find employment. And in the meantime, while he's getting back on his feet, we're going to make sure that he's taken care of. His family's not put out on the street. His family's going to have food. We're going to make sure of that. And when we get to a point, we'll evaluate, okay, you've been working now. You should be good to go. Is there anything else we can do for you? If not, guess what? You're back on your feet. You're good to go. They're grateful for the assistance, and we move on to the next person. But we just don't keep giving money to a empty hole and just keep pouring money in an empty hole and then turn around and criticize the same program that you started. Now you want to turn around and criticize that program, talking about these people are just milking the system. These people are just doing this and doing that when you allowed them to do it in the first place because you didn't put no regulations and no accountabilities on the program. So if you don't do that, of course, every government program that you put out there is going to be a failure because you don't have no accountability to the program. If you got accountability to the program will be a success. It always has. Because when private industry does it, they hold people accountable. Private industry ain't just giving money out. If they give money, they want to know who the money going to. They want to know who the hell you are. They want your credit record. They want everything before they start giving you money. And they want to make sure that money's going to what you said it's supposed to go to. They're not just going to write you a check and say, here, have at it, have a nice day. No, they're going to make sure that check went to whatever you requested it for. They're going to make sure that they go to. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. That's the only way. So, I don't, just like with the social medicine. Again, I don't think nobody, once you hit 65, you shouldn't even have to worry about, nothing. You done made it 65. That should be your reward. And then you should be able to be taken care of. That's what you pay tax dollars for. Everybody else paying tax dollars. So what else do you want to do? And we just gonna let all these old people, it's just sad. These people get up in age and they get to their senior years and it's like they're living in a concentration camp. We dump them off into these state-run facilities where they're not being cared for. You got people in there working for $5 an hour, and they're treating these people like runaway slaves. It's horrible. It's horrible that we do this. Just like you said, it's horrible that we would do this to each other. And we're supposed to be human beings, and we don't even respect each other that much that we can't help one another. But no, we're greedy and we're selfish, and that's why America is in the spot that they are in now. And come this election, if you ain't watching what's going on and you mess around and vote for the wrong person, we're gonna be in a worse mess than you ever. We're really gonna be in a quake, what they call a quagmire. That's what's gonna be happening. I'm sorry, sir. What you got to say?
Just add to your comment about us being selfish. It's also rugged individualism, and MLK said it one day during one of the interviews he had. He said, you know, it's kind of cruel to tell a bootless man he need to pull himself up by his bootstraps. So it's this idea of just like rugged individualism, and it's sick because there's no community in it. But that's why when you look at the social metrics of other countries, and it really don't matter where you go. Almost all of them are happier than we are, but they have so much more of a sense of community. You know, even the countries that are considered, you know, third world or whatever, they have so much more community. They take care of each other. They don't necessarily just push their old people to the side because they don't consume more. And that's another thing. Your value in a commercialized culture, in a market system, is that your value is based on what you produce or consume. And if you don't produce or consume anything, then that's it. They can't do anything with you. Instead of let human beings be human beings, because you have value just being alive.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's here for a purpose, and everybody has value.
You don't have to be going out and spending money in these companies and these corporations or working yourself 60 hours a week to feel like you matter to society. You should be able to work 40 hours and live decent if that's what you want to do. You want to live, and you should be able to afford the basics and still feel like you somebody, not feel like you're a loser because you're not a millionaire next week because they told you could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, materialism has ruined America. Everything is based off of things, and you know that's true because television pushes it, videos push it, celebrities push it. What was that show? Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
People watch this and they envy them, and this is what they aspire to be, you know. And the sad thing is, a portion of them can't even afford what they got. You hear these celebrities that went bankrupt, they done bought these billion-dollar homes. Next thing you know, they're being foreclosed on, things of that nature. Even the lifestyle of the rich and famous can't even afford the lifestyle of the rich and famous. So what does that tell you, you know, as we move on? But, you know, the other things, last thing, so we can get up out of here. I noticed ain't nobody really talking about education. I hear little spigots, but, you know, little nuggets here and there, but nobody's really addressed education. So this last video I wanted to show you, because this is about, and I saw this one when it first came out, it was about these teachers in Texas that they've had enough. I mean, they had enough. They're tired. I mean, they done been spit on, hit, and all kind of stuff, and they quit. They quit their jobs. And so I'm gonna let them tell their story. But it's just interesting that you know, I ain't really heard too much about education, but we'll let these people talk about it.
We represent different ISDs.
They do have one thing in common. They all recently quit.
It takes a toll.
I could not do it anymore.
The job can feel like a calling.
Growing up, my mom was a teacher, and in fact, she was my teacher in 1st and 4th grade.
Amy Rodenroth followed her mother's footsteps. Derek Spencer saw the chance to make a difference.
There wasn't many African-American males in elementary.
Myri Ann Gable was inspired.
My high school math teacher. She looked like me. She had poise. She just gave me a chance.
Together, they have a combined 140 years of experience.
Raise your hand if you feel like you made a difference in kids' lives.
If you've ever dreamed of owning an apartment complex and you live near one of these cities, then you've got to see the same ad that.
So stepping away wasn't exactly easy.
I mean, I can't do that anymore, but that's where my heart is.
And I just cried because I thought, that's my last, that's my last group of kids.
The Texas Education Agency reports more than 13% of the state's teachers, nearly 50,000 of them, left the profession last year, the highest number on record. There's more than just one reason, this group told us, for the exodus. But a good starting point is the money, or better said, the lack of it.
And I know I didn't get into it for the money. I know I didn't get into education for the money. But I sure thought it would be a lot easier than having to hold down a couple of jobs to maintain.
The average starting salary for a teacher in Texas is just over $45,000. As they gain experience, salaries increase, but not by much. Veteran Texas teachers make on average just $20,000 more than novices.
I've talked to my ex-students who are graduating and who are going into college, and they're like, I go, so what are you going to do? Well, I would be a teacher, but the main things that are the drawbacks, money, they can't survive. They can't survive on what they're getting paid, and the retirement, when they retire, like, I know you know this, I'm retired, and I laughed at what I was going to get for my retirement. Like, I literally burst out laughing.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott last year commissioned a teacher vacancy task force to look at how to improve teacher recruitment and retention. Topping its list of recommendations released this February was a significant increase in overall teacher salaries. But state lawmakers failed during their regular session to pass any increase at all. The task force also tackled teachers' working conditions, recommending redesigned schedules that increase time for planning and development.
No one tells you that you do all the extras.
You put out so much of your time and energy, not just during the school day, but after the school day, on the weekends, developing plans, making sure the kids have what they need.
A study by EdWeek Research Center last year found the typical teacher works 54 hours a week. Most spent less than half that time actually teaching students.
I was going to have to consistently go through more training to look like I was constantly learning. Y'all, I went through a PhD program. You think I have enough education?
And if a teacher is good at what they do, this group says their job just gets harder.
The teacher who works hard, the teacher who takes on the mother role, get the most difficult children.
They get the tough kids. Those aren't going to be the kids that make the scores on the standardized assessment.
But the problem is you don't get any additional assistance.
The pandemic only made it all worse.
I don't know if anyone's ever tried to teach a third grader on a computer.
You do first grade.
Yes.
In person and
So
computer.
it's insane. Instead of the state stopping and saying, all right, we're 2 years behind now. We need to help these teachers. They just kept moving forward. And so you feel defeated.
Not just moving forward, requiring more, requiring you to work longer, no additional pay.
And health concerns, they say, weren't taken seriously. Spencer told us since 2017 he's been living with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a blood cancer, putting him at increased risk during the pandemic. He was initially approved to work from home.
But then I started getting emails from the district, and they were like, yeah, it's time for you to get back. So I called somebody in the district, and they were like, yeah, do you pray? I was like, what does that have to do with anything? What does me praying have to do with me coming back to school?
Every teacher here says they saw the effect of increased stress on their health, with high blood pressure, anxiety, and panic attacks.
I had an anxiety attack on the day of STAR.
Yeah.
I thought I had committed treason.
You're still expected to maintain mental health when you're giving your all, and then but don't you know God?
Oh, yeah.
But don't you know God?
We studied all 160 bills proposed this year that would have affected teachers. Most never made it to a vote. And in the end, not a single one of the task force recommendations became law.
Okay. You tell me your thoughts. I'm going to tell you mine.
That's pretty sad. My argument has been for a long time, and it still is we preach so much about education in this country, but we don't pay teachers anything. It's a contradiction, for one. That is really sad, though. And my wife used to be a school teacher, and she went and got her master's so she could get out of the classroom because there was no money in there. Just like they said, she told me if she could make good money, she would go right back to teaching because she loves teaching. And she loves teaching 2- and 3-year-olds.
So my question is, what was the purpose of doing a task force review? Why would you spend all that money? Because those ain't cheap. To do a survey and a review and you have to gather all this information to come up with solutions to fix your problem. Those companies ain't cheap. They do that research. And then when they give you their recommendations, you don't do not a one. I mean, and the biggest one was pay. They couldn't even vote on it. No, we can't give you a raise. We can't give you a raise. But they always preach about education. And here you got 160 hours, or I forget how many hours they said it was, all this talent and experience gone because they can't take it no more. And they don't put all these pressures on the students. So, but education is just like everything else. Education is just like the prison system. It's just become a business, and it's just about money. That's all it is.
This is when voting actually matters more so than the federal level for presidents. As you go, because you can see what these Congress people vote on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is in your area, and this is another way to organize. People get together, say these teachers, because they got teachers unions. Say all these teachers unions in the area, the teachers get together, and they look at the Congress people who all voted no on giving them a raise. and then they start their own campaign to get them out of there.
Yeah.
And they do every one of them like that.
Well, I agree. In fact, all of them. We need to give from the local level all the way up. All of them need to take an X-Lax because they need to be flushed. What was that movie, Batman? He said, this town needs an enema. Yes, government needs an enema. And it needs to be flushed about 4 or 5 times until all the waste is gone. And then let's start from scratch. Because when you have an enema and you go through that process, you feel so much lighter and better because you have now evacuated all that waste that was bowed up into your intestines. And so that's what we're dealing with now. We are so backed up with waste and corruption and all the mess that they got that we need something to just flush it all out and let's start all over again with a fresh plate of food that we can monitor and regulate and maybe do it right this time. I don't know. That's all I got, brother. You got anything?
I just want to say, we see stuff like this. We see housing is expensive, unaffordable for most of the country. Food is high. Teachers are quitting, and it's just like, where's the country going? What is this going to look like? Is somebody going to step up, or the people going to say this is enough and actually going to get together, or is somebody going to come like my example I always like to use is somebody going to come through like FDR did, and but at the same time, the only reason he did what he did is because he had pressure from people organizing. So, I mean, again, it's going to take a collective effort of regular everyday people of all colors, of all backgrounds,
That's exactly what it's going to take. People got to realize it ain't about a color, it ain't about race. It's about the individual as a collective, because we all are affected. Asians, Hispanic, Black, Brown, we're all affected. White, we're all affected. So the problem is that we need to band together to where we can make it somewhat fair across the board. And to be honest, you can start with the tax system because you can just do a flat tax across the board, and that would make the playing field even right there, because everybody be paying their fair share based on their income level, from businesses all the way down. Then you don't have to worry about taxing the 1% and giving these people. Well, if you tax them, they're going to go. Let them go wherever they're going to go. Because if you leave the United States, in order to come back to the United States, it's going to cost you some money. That's all. Yeah. You leave the United States, you want your products back in the United States, it's going to cost some money. And the government itself can sustain the country, because if the government was buying American made from American manufacturers, that alone would sustain the country. You think about we'll just use the automotive industry. Look at all the cars that we use between law enforcement, ambulance, fire department, administrative, your administrative entities and all the other stuff, government. Look at all the vehicles that we use. Now you figure between the 3 major car manufacturers, we should keep them in business, just that alone.
Yeah.
If they didn't sell another car between the governments and the cities and the counties and the federal government alone, all the cars that we use, would keep those 3 major car companies in business if they didn't do nothing else. Because it would they rotate them out every 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So even if you just did one everybody, do one every year, do Ford this year, do Chevy the next year, do Chrysler the next year, however you want to do it, but it'd be enough going around that they if they didn't sell another car, just that alone would keep those 3 companies going and make a profit. But who am I? I'm just here.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, brother, man. I appreciate you. That was a good conversation, and hopefully, America, y'all get something from it, and hopefully, we'll learn something by the end of the week. Again, when this goes out, the Democratic convention will be starting that night, and we'll see what they got to say and what celebrities they're going to bring, because they just showed keynote speakers, but I'm sure in the midst of all that, we're going to see somebody. We're going to see, I don't know. We'll see somebody. We'll see what we'll see. But anyway, I guess we'll be talking about that next week. So anyway. All right, Mr. Quentin.
Yep.
We'll see you on the next episode. And please leave a review, like, share. It helps this podcast. We hope that you enjoy it. And then down in the descriptions there, America, leave your comments. If you look on our description, our email will be down there, and you can send us an email, whether you agree or disagree, or you can go on our YouTube platform and leave a comment there, whether you agree or disagree. I don't know. We don't know. We're just two people just having a conversation. So tell us what you think. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're right. Maybe we're just full of it. I don't know. But we love to hear from you, and so we can discuss it. We'll be glad to have your comments. Bring them to the next episode, and we'll talk about them. Hey, because it's a collective conversation. It's just not one. But again, that's why we started the podcast, because it's real talk for real people. Real talk for real people. So until the next time, this is James Parker with my brother host, Mr. Quentin Williams. And until the next time, we'll see you. And until then, God bless. See you later, Mr. Quentin.